original music podcast.
Let the mountains crumble and fall to the ground, and the stars they are counted as they make their sound. Beauty turns to ashes and blows in the wind. There's nothing new here, oh no, it's happening again.
All right, here we go, episode 51. Tonight we got Cranberry Suit. They're a band out of Tucson, Arizona area. And tonight we got Raven Hawk with us. How you doing tonight, Raven?
Doing good, and you?
I am doing well myself. I appreciate you guys coming on. I believe that you answered an ad or a post that we had done and reached out to us, and I checked out your material, and I was like, yes, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for original bands that have taken the time to write good songs, taken the time to record them properly, taken the time to get them on distributions such as Spotify, YouTube's on their website, those types of things. Those are the types of artists that I want to talk to, because you obviously have a passion for your band and original music. And tell me a little bit. It sounds like you guys started about in 2019. You started putting this together.
Yeah, right before COVID kicked off, I decided that I wanted to start playing again, and I wanted to do original rock and roll.
Yeah.
And I figured the best place for me to start looking was actually going to be out of town, up in Phoenix. And because I was going to a lot of concerts up there, like a lot of the bands that I'm into were coming through there versus Tucson. And really good scene, it was really strong, really, a lot of activity, a lot of people hanging out, checking out a bunch of different genres of rock. And so I figured, this is definitely the spot I need to be in, to find the guys that I'm looking for. And started answering ads out of their Craigslist publication, which is, everybody warned me against, but how else do you reach out?
Yeah.
And that's how I found Brad, and he was in an existing project.
Right.
And it was going to be completely different. They were doing mostly acoustic kind of folk rock. I guess it reminded me a lot of Stephen Stills kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, I instantly was taken by Brad's voice and style.
Yeah. And
was just like, I want to be a part of this. So submitted some audition tapes, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, I will have to agree. Craigslist is a beware what you ask for. In some cases, and in a lot of cases, you'll find a gem. Here in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, back in the day, it was actually before Craigslist. We had a publication called Creative Loafing, and there was always a musician exchange kind of classified section there that I had some luck with back in the late 90s. But things have changed as far as we were talking a little bit off air. People don't understand how much work it is to find a quality player with the same mindset as you to do the same type of music. Getting people on the same page is very difficult, and like you were saying, you have to have some sort of a demo of some sort of an idea of what you're thinking for the band to be able to hand people and go, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are you guys thinking? So it took a period of time. You've got 5 members. You've got Robert on guitars, Brian on bass, Jerry on drums, and Brad, which you mentioned already, vocals. Those obviously weren't first catch guys. How many players did you go through to get to this lineup?
It took about a year and a half to find this lineup.
Yeah.
Right off the funny story. So I tell these guys I'm interested. They like my demos. I like their demos. And then they give me, I don't know, like, I forget what it was, maybe 12, 13 songs. And they're like, oh, by the way, we've got a show coming up in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And we want you to play this show. So I'm like, okay, I do that. I think I'm interested enough in the songs to commit that kind of time to it. So I get started, and I'm about a week out from when my audition's supposed to be, and the guitar player quit. And Brad's like, how do you feel about being the guitar player? And I'm like, well, shit, I just learned all these second parts. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the primary parts. But I was like, I'm like, are you opposed to being in a rock band? Like, are you guys down with, playing a little bit harder than what you're doing? And he's like, that's actually what we want to do. And I go, then I'll see you next week, and we'll make it work.
Yeah.
And that's just that's how it started. And then from there, we found out that the bass player was more interested in being in a cover band. And so about 2-3 weeks into it, we needed a bass player, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
We had the resolve to be as safe as we figured we could be. We had a spot that we could keep jamming, so we did.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent the majority of the lockdown time starting to write and develop the sound that you hear today, like really kind of honing in the whole Cranberry Suit thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to cut a demo as soon as the restrictions got lifted in Arizona. Like, they were, I don't know, everybody was big on the 6 feet,
yeah.
And we had a curfew for a while, but we found a way to work around all of that and get a first run demo pressed. Went on to find a bass player. When we found the bass player, we lost the original drummer.
Oh no.
The bass player was amazing. And the drummer turned out to be more of a hobbyist, at the time.
Yeah.
Than we were looking for. So then we had to resort to hiring a drummer. We had to play with a couple of different session guys. Found this one guy, Nick Forcione. If anybody's ever looking to hire an amazing drummer that will not let you down,
yeah.
He is the man in the Phoenix area. Went through a couple of crazies that we found on Craigslist as well.
Nice.
Cause Nick's schedule was Nick's a really full schedule, and he's playing for a living,
Right. Right.
And then we were able to do the EP with Nick on drums and Darwin Scott on bass. He was our bass player for the EP.
Mm-hmm.
But same thing, he's another pro guy, plays for a living, has to play every night.
Yep.
And being in an original project, when who knew when we were going to play next, or if we were going to play.
Right.
So we had to move on from Darwin to accommodate his schedule and try to find a permanent guy for us. And as fate would have it, just about a year ago, it was a comedy of errors. A band that I knew was breaking up, and out of that, we got Rob and Jerry. So we got a second guitar player and a drummer.
Nice.
I had known Rob for a long time, and all the bands, like there were 3 other bands that I was familiar with him being in years ago. And I was always like, man, I want to play with these guys. Like, these guys they got it going on, but they always had a singer that also played guitar, and he wasn't going to stop playing. So that never happened.
Right.
And, but like, it seemed like lightning struck. We found Jerry and Rob at the same time. That transitioned into us moving down to Tucson. We had a better rehearsal room down here available.
Yeah.
And then we started the hunt for a bass player. And like 2 weeks later, Brian fell out of the sky. He had just moved to Arizona from Connecticut.
Nice.
Jerry saw an ad, we met, and it just clicked. It clicked perfectly. Like, I knew we had the lineup. I think everybody else still feels the same, about that. It's just something about the five of us in the room together and on stage that works. But all in all, it was about a year and a half, maybe a 2-year process,
Yeah.
just to complete the lineup for this band.
Yeah, and that's with a global pandemic in the middle of all that. What a mess that was.
Man,
Um,
yeah,
the pandemic for me just put me into a super creative mode of I created a whole new band during the pandemic, of all of my own original material on top of the two other bands I was already in. So I used my time to as much at my advantage as we could. I think we were
yeah.
locked down for like 42 or 45 days, from March to May, somewhere in there. And then after that, everybody was like, all right, this is over. If you get
Yeah.
sick, he gets sick. Let's go, Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's talk about the name, Cranberry Suit. I love the logo. Love the name. What's the background on the name? What's the concept there?
It as you know, finding a band name
Yeah,
is
yeah,
one of the most difficult and annoying things
yeah.
ever. And so Brad and the original guitar player were going through it. This show that they were supposed to play was coming up. And Brad finally just told the guitar players, like, look, man, we have to have a name in order to play the show because we got to put flyers out.
Right.
So the next thing you pick is just going to be the band name. I don't care what it is, just pick something. So the guitar player picked Cranberry Suit thinking that Brad would never go for it. And Brad said, cool, that's the name, made the flyers. And so it just stuck.
Yeah.
And so when I met him and found out that they actually had a name,
Yeah.
and we didn't have to go through that, I was just like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
I don't care what the name is. And Cranberry Suit's that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so it was just, it wasn't taken. It was an idea somebody just threw out.
Yeah.
It's completely ambiguous. It could mean anything and nothing all at the same time. So I figured that was perfect.
Yeah. The funny thing is when I went to look you up, the first thing that came up on images was a bunch of cranberry suits. The color.
Yeah.
The color, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So when you guys you finally got the band together, and are you venues to play original music in Tucson or Phoenix? Is it as difficult as it is in Atlanta to find venues to actually play original music on a proper stage?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's what is it? The tribute
Yep.
scene is really big is statewide.
Yeah.
And with the difference, I think, in the difference in the way music is promoted today overall, the younger kids, like the college area, seems to be more geared towards DJs, things like that,
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're a DJ, you got it made. If you're doing what are they, EDM,
Yep.
If you're doing covers or tributes, you're a shoe-in. But original rock is tricky to get booked.
Yeah. Yeah. Are there where is a place, say in Tucson, that does original music? And do you have venues like we've got a premier venue here, that fantastic stage, fantastic drum riser, that's my new parameter. I'm not going to play on a stage that's not elevated and doesn't have a drum riser. But this place has got it all, and it's fantastic. Problem is you're going to get a Tuesday or a Wednesday, if you're a quality original band. But Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and some Sundays, I guess, it's going to be Bob Dylan tribute, Foreigner tribute, Bon Jovi tribute, Journey tribute. What's the craziest tribute band that you have come across in your travels there?
There is a mariachi band that does Black Sabbath
Nice.
covers mariachi style out here. And offhand, I think that's the wildest one that I've come across.
Yeah.
After that, it's it's the standards, Zeppelin, AC/DC, Bad Company, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's pretty classic rock oriented. There's who is it? Van Halen. There's a couple of Van Halen tributes. Really good one.
Yeah.
It's been around for a long time. Called Atomic Punks.
Yep.
All female Iron Maiden.
Yeah, the Iron Maiden
tribute. Yeah. And there's another all female one that does a combination of, they're called Iron Priestess. So it's like you get a Judas Priest set and an Iron Maiden set,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. It's almost it's almost unlimited to what you can do as far as I've seen some of the tribute bands starting to do what you're talking about there, where they're blending this band and that band. Like we've got Can Sticks here, where they're doing Kansas and Sticks. But it's getting pretty crazy here. I'm waiting for. I always joke that if I got to do it, if I got to do a tribute band, I'm going to do a Men Without Hats tribute band, and we're going to play Safety Dance like 17 times, and every time a different way. Thomas Dolby.
I think I want in on that. Yeah. I'll travel for that.
You know what I mean? But it's I guess you can't fault the venues because they think that's what's going to bring in the money or the crowd, and they tend to do it. So
yeah, it's it's like, I understand the math 100%.
Yeah,
and there's such a difference now. This is an ongoing conversation of the difference between the way original music is supported today versus when you and I were kids. When we were kids, you had, like, really young, I remember when you could still call the radio station and actually request songs, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Whether you wanted to hear Jailhouse Rock by Elvis or whatever the latest Loverboy song was, all you had to do was call your local DJ and they'd spin it for you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, with MTV, when I think rock became its most commercialized, having exposure to the whole mod scene out of England in particular, the whole new wave scene out of LA in Europe, the new wave of British heavy metal, plus pop rock. I mean, it was the average, day in 1982 watching MTV, you saw everything. You saw Motorhead, The Pretenders, The Police, Michael Jackson, Van Halen, and Run to the Hills by Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
The exposure was unlimited, and they were always promoting concerts. The local, I grew up in Baltimore, and if there was ever a rock and roll town, Baltimore is a rock and roll town. So there were a couple of really big venues that supported live music, and the radio stations announced everything.
Yep.
I remember every Friday night, like right after the after work rush hour, the DJs would announce all of the local shows, whether it was a unsigned band, punk rock band,
yep,
to whoever the major events in town were. And you just don't see any of that anymore.
Right.
So, I don't know of in town, there aren't clubs that are just jam packed on a Friday night simply because it's Friday night and everybody's out to party.
Right.
You don't see that anymore. Now everybody's planned out, they got to get their Uber coordinated with it, and their FaceTime chats all timed out and, in a nice, neat little box, So in that respect, people don't have exposure to who's new and what's going on. But if they're like, oh, there's some band coming to play, everything off of Back in Black and Hell's Bells tonight,
Right.
well,
Right.
that's a no-brainer. We're going to go see that.
Yeah, let's go check that out. We know what we're getting.
Right.
It's gonna be the same thing that we heard, last time we went and saw them. Well, I mentioned a little earlier, creative loafing, the local rag here. That was kind of, the artists and the musicians and all that kind of stuff. That was where you went to look, who's going to be at Smith's Old Bar, who's going to be at CJ's Landing, who's going to be at Magruder's, who's going to be at, and they would have, for that month, it would have who's going to be at the venues, and we would go out and check bands out, and that's how we would find new places to play and all that. I seem to find now, I just in my Facebook feed, which venues are booking what types of bands, and I guess Facebook is the rag now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's. I think I'd say it's the same out here. It took me a while to catch on to that too. Like, you have to go into the specific events calendar for your area to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
It's because that, like I say, you don't have all of the outside promotion anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of this. I don't even listen to terrestrial radio anymore.
Yeah.
I'm strictly, my playlist, and then if I'm looking for new stuff, I'll check out Bandcamp, Spotify, stuff like that, and just start cruising for new bands.
Yeah.
But you really have to dig out who's playing where now.
Yeah.
I've made it a point to, the bands that I've come across in the last year or so locally that I like, I make sure to talk to them now and get linked up with them on Facebook, so I can try and follow them and keep track of them that way. And I seem to have the most success finding shows that way now.
Yeah, that's very similar here. Networking with, and that's part of the reason why I started this podcast was to network. We were doing luckily, there's a promoter here that does every year does an original music showcase.
Nice.
And we were on the bill, and there were like 30 bands listed on his roster. And I was like, well, somebody needs to talk to every one of these bands and promote them and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, I've got the studio, I've got the cameras, let's do it. And so that's kind of how it all started. And I think that's the only way to kind of resurrect and network and keep a scene, a scene, is to do what you're talking about, is make friends with other bands. Back in, we talked about back in my day, a couple of old guys. But back in our day, in the late 90s, we weren't friends with other bands. They were the competition, and we were out there to, be the best. Put us on a bill with you guys. Let's go. And whoever comes out on top wins. Was more of the attitude back then. I was probably younger and had that, the wrong mindset. And now it's the total opposite. It's like, hey, you sound great. You guys are doing the right stuff. Let's do a show together.
Yeah.
And getting and trying to do it, stuff like that is camaraderie. You have to.
Yeah.
If we can't beat them, we got to join together and try to beat them. Because that's kind of where we're at as far as that goes. Let's talk about some of the material that we're going to listen to. The recording process. Again, back in the day, we would go to studios and I remember recording to tape, before Pro Tools.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, did you guys go in a studio to do this? Did you do it yourself? How did you guys do the recording process?
So we started out, same old process, find a good studio, set up book time, and go in and get it done. And that's how we did our first couple of demos, and then eventually our EP.
Yeah.
And then our bass player now, Brian, is just an absolutely brilliant engineer.
Nice.
That actually went to school for audio engineering,
Yep.
and music theory and everything. So he's an absolute blessing and a gift in that our two latest singles we've done on our own, just in our rehearsal room. Looks very much like your studio.
Yep.
And we do our drums. Our drummer has a really live room that he likes to record out of. So Jerry and Brian will get together, do bass and drums. Then Rob and I'll throw guitars at it, and then we'll do all the vocal production, after that. But we're completely, DIY now.
Yeah.
We write it, record it, master it, all in house.
Yeah. That's a win. And like you said, it's a blessing to have five guys, and everybody's going to have some sort of a talent that another guy's not going to have. Like we just found out after being in a band 15 years together, our bass player's got an amazing touch for graphic design on posters and social media posts. So everything looks really nice and well put together. I do some recording and writing, and Jeff, the drummer, he's the audio engineer, and Swift, the vocalist, is he's an amazing vocalist, but you have to find everybody's going to have to pull the chain a little bit in the band, and whatever it is that they can do to help the cause. Everybody just joins in and gets it done, and you have
especially especially nowadays. It's I think in all of the bands that I've been in, this is the first one where there is absolutely a universal team effort. You know what I mean? Like you say, everybody's got their strength.
Yep.
And they're and they apply it, you know what I mean, as the band needs it. So the band is really the focus, where when you're younger, I think the biggest thing, especially with guys that were talented, is they were so exclusively focused on highlighting themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's my time to solo, or turn me up, or like I got to write at least this many songs, and and where now we it's the cool thing is we're really looking at, okay, what's it going to take for us to cover the ground that we want to cover? And what can I do as an individual to make sure that, whatever box needs to be checked for us to do that gets checked.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome how that works out. That makes it really enjoyable.
Yeah. Do you think that comes from age and wisdom? Maturity?
Yeah. Some of it, and I think that's part of the magic to, it takes a team to be successful at anything. Law firm, football team, band, NASCAR pit crew.
Yeah.
If everybody's not on the same page and working towards the same goal, you're just not going to get there.
Yeah.
Short of dumb luck, and if you stumble into it, it's not going to last. And I think some people get that right away.
Yeah.
For me, the band has always kind of been, a band has always kind of been like, the family team environment. That's always been my goal.
Yeah.
But cause I've always played sports, and been in, extracurricular activities, that took a group effort, to complete whatever the goal was. So my mind just works that way.
Yeah.
And I think the guys that I'm playing with right now, I just.
Yeah. I lost you. There you go. I lost your audio.
The graphics. Oh,
I got you now. I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, and
yeah.
your contribution doesn't have to be, the best graphic art guy. Your contribution could be, hey, I've got the rehearsal space. Let's do it here every Sunday or whatever you want to do. I mean,
Yep.
whatever it takes. It's very easy for the race to mediocrity. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to have the tenacity to step above mediocrity and really do some good work. So, well, let's take a listen to a track. Let's listen to "No Rest for the Wicked." Anything you want to say about this track before we fire it off?
It is going to be available on our upcoming LP coming out in the fall of 2024. And it's one of my favorite songs. I think it covers a real full range of the influences that the band really has.
Awesome. Well, let's take a listen to it, and then we'll talk about those influences. All right,
cool.
So this is "No Rest for the Wicked," Cranberry Suit. All right, that's some straight up rock and roll right there, man. I like
Thank
that.
you.
So, first question: are we detuned?
Oh yeah, drop D.
Okay, so we're drop D, standard 440A, but drop D.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's a nice place to live. My buddies are kind of, well, they kind of pick on me a little bit because I've got a lot of guitars up here on the wall, and I think I've got two of them, two of them that are in standard E tuning. Everything is either drop, D flat or C or, um, and they kind of pick on me because I don't have any guitars in standard tuning. But that's where it's at for me. I mean, it's rock and roll. It's not
Yeah.
rock and roll. It's rock and roll. And you got to detune a little bit to, in my opinion, to get there. Now, are you playing rhythm guitar or lead guitar on that track?
Both.
Okay. Great rhythm playing, man. It's got such a good groove to it.
Thank you.
The vocalist, his voice just straight up cuts through. His timbre or timbre, whatever they say, vocally just cuts really through. Is he? What's his background? What are some of his influences?
He's he's a big Bad Company guy. Like he really likes Paul Rogers.
Yeah.
He likes Chris Robbins from the Black Crowes. He's a big Jeff Tate fan.
Okay, yeah, I hear that.
He's a Beatles guy. He's an Elton John guy. He likes. He's a huge Skynyrd fan. I'm always impressed when I meet people that are more into Skynyrd than I am because I'm
nice,
a legit Skynyrd fan. But same kind of background. That kind of that mid 70s, early 80s hard rock. Like I think we both agree 84 is kind of where
the cutoff,
where our interest in what was making it to the mainstream stopped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like all things, in there, you'll hear who else? Let me think. He's a Dickinson guy from Iron Maiden.
Okay.
I like Deano, but he likes Dickinson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about guitar playing?
Kinda,
what about guitar playing? Because I mean, you've got some heavy rhythmic chunk going on there.
I would say, like, to keep the show in the time frame of today. I like Zeppelin, Sabbath, and Corrosion of Conformity. Like those are, like right off the top, those are my staple kind of my moods. The tones I like, the rhythms I like, the dynamics I like. I think those three bands probably encompass, more than anything else. That's probably the simplest way to put it.
Yeah. We my band Hope Sanker, we are very and I got turned on to him a little bit later in my career. King's X is kind of right up the alley of, it's got soul, it's got rock, it's got vocals, and it's got harmonies, and I think they're dubbed the most underrated band in rock history or something like that. And that's
easily.
Yeah. I think they are.
Yes, for a three-piece, I mean, at all, just, but for a three-piece, those guys are monsters, absolute monsters, man. Yeah.
I think I just saw them recently this year. It was 2023. And, Doug is not a spring chicken. And, man, he still lays it down vocally and playing his bass as good as ever, I mean, I love seeing those, what we call legacy guys, especially, and as a musician, sometimes it's hard to go out, and if you have a gig, most of the time that's when your favorite bands come through town. You're like, oh man, I can't see them. Well, I'm trying to make it a point these days that if one of those guys coming through town, I'm adjusting the schedule, because I had just seen Jeff Beck probably 3 months before he passed away, and I'm like so glad that I did.
I I there was nothing I could do about it. But the last time he came through Tucson, I was supposed to go, and ended up missing it. And and he passed shortly thereafter. And I've committed to the idea of, as much as possible, not letting that happen anymore. Because I mean, Jeff Beck, that's it's on one hand, like, guitar players always talk about him, but he's not as much of a household name as I think he should be. That what he did was just, you can't even describe it.
Yeah.
Beck's amazing. Was amazing.
Yeah. And with him, I've said this in conversations with friends, guitar player friends, because I mean that's really the only person that are going to understand what you're talking about. But you see a lot of guys like Polyphia and Henson and some of these amazing technical players that are doing things that I'm like, wow. I mean, it's like when I first heard Eruption, I had this moment of, oh my, oh, okay, we're not in Claptonville anymore. Holy cow, what is this? And there's some very amazing technical virtuosity. Virtuosic. I don't know if that's the word, but there's some really amazing players. But I felt like Jeff Beck was still more creative at the age of 72 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever he was, than a lot of these young players that are doing these amazing gymnastics on the fretboard. He's just so creative and was getting sounds out of a Strat that what is that, But that's the thing. So I just picked up tickets. My next Legacy concert that I'm not going to miss is Satriani and Steve Vai are coming together to the Atlanta area, and I'm like, okay. I'm not booking anything on that date. I think March 26th or something like that. But yeah, you gotta see him.
Yeah, same on this end. I've missed all the G3 concerts for one reason or another, but this one I'm definitely going to.
Yeah. So speaking of new players and such, are there any? And they don't have to be, it could be whatever. But are there any new bands like that make you go, wow, okay, everything's gonna be okay in the rock world? Look what we got right here.
Yes. The Georgia Thunderbolts are pretty sick. News hard, because there's a lot of these guys that are just cracking the surface, but they've been around 10, 15, sometimes almost 20 years. But them Dirty Roses, Blacktop Mojo, Atomic Kings is another great band out of Arizona. With Greg Chyson that used to play with Jakey Lee in Badlands. He's got a great lineup out here. Probably, I think the band that's had the most impact on me in like the last 15, maybe 20 years, and guitar player, I love Sinister Gates from Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I just I don't know what it is, but whatever it is that they're doing, that has always just hit me right. It's I pretty much all of their albums have given me that same kind of charge that I used to get when I was a kid, listening to Van Halen for the first time, or, listening to Mob Rules for the first time, and stuff like that. I really dig where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Who else? A lot of off radar stuff. I like the whole doom psych genre a lot, so a lot of the bands I'm listening to are out of Scandinavia, but like Cadaver and Graveyard are some of my favorites. I've been listening to them for the last few years and really digging on that stuff.
Yeah.
Monolord, bands like that. Yeah.
That's cool. My tastes are kind of all over the place. There was a kid, and like I said, unless it's Jeff Beck, I'm not typically driving out of town to go see an artist. But I did that a few years back, just on a YouTube video. I saw a YouTube video of a kid named Marcus King.
Oh, yes.
And he was singing a song just by himself in the green room called Virginia. And I was like, goosebumps right now just thinking about it. I'm like, who is this guy? And listen to that voice. I drove to Macon with a buddy of mine. I said, we have to go. We have to go. And this is when he was really doing like the blues rock, horn section. It was almost a throwback to, I saw the Grateful Dead poster in your background there. It was almost a jam band kind of a vibe, but like his guitar playing was so technical and fiery, flashy. And then he opened his mouth. I'm like, wow, he's the total package.
Yeah, he is, man. Yeah, he is.
So on the blues rock side, that's my guy. But I really got my head spun with a band called KXM, and that's Ray Luzier, Doug Pinnick, and George Lynch.
Yes.
My bass player turned me on to that, and I was like, I had no idea George Lynch could play like that. It was so different than the earlier stuff.
He was the first guy that pulled my ear away from Eddie Van Halen back in the day. You know what I mean? There was something, George always had a really good feel and tone. And then what I love about, I follow him a lot now. So the KXM stuff, the End Machine stuff, and there's another Dirty Shirley. Have you heard that stuff?
Mm-mm.
Oh man. And then he's done a project with Angelo Moore from Fishbone.
Wow.
And every time George is on a new record, he comes at you with a completely different dimension and train of thought of playing. And it's always just so riveting and enticing. I love the way he plays.
Yeah.
And before I forget, Rival Sons.
Yeah. Rival Sons
is
yeah, they're putting
that's another big one.
They're putting it down old school, like they're I like when these bands that they're kind of tipping their hat to just straight up 70s rock and roll or 80s, not even 80s, but I mean like organic rock and roll. And they're just doing it so well. You mentioned the band earlier with the Black Crowes. The cutoff is 1984, but there were a couple of stragglers in the 90s, and the Black Crowes was one of them that threw it back to straight up rock and roll, soulful singing, great guitar playing, Hammond organs. And those guys really did that as well. Another band, there's two other bands I want to bring up that, and I bring these guys up, and each of these bands are new-ish bands, but they're legacy players. Yeah, it's almost like super groups. That was a term that back in the day that labels would put together these massive artists and say, "Ready, set, go." But the Winery Dogs,
yes,
with Billy Sheehan, Richie Kotzen, and I don't know, a little drummer named Portnoy. If you ever get this chance to go see those guys live, you take a notebook. You're going to school. It's unreal. I bet.
Yeah,
it really was unreal. And then the last band is again another super group, Black Country Communion. If they ever come to the States, to the States, I'll come to see you in Arizona if that's where they are. I will travel.
Yeah, I got turned on to Bonamassa late, and I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
But it did. But Black Country Communion is how I discovered him.
Oh wow.
And oh man, wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. You know, I had no idea,
Yeah.
no idea. And I've been a fan of his ever since. I love everything that Jason Bonham is involved in, and same with Glenn Hughes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I liked his stint with oh damn it, with
California
the Dead
Breed.
Daisies.
Oh, the Dead
California Breed was great too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like
That's good to know.
it sounds like we like all the same stuff. You know,
Yeah,
it's just called good rock and roll. I mean, essentially, you know.
that's I think I think people looked away from rock before it was really done offering up all that it has to show. You
Yeah.
know, I think trends come and go, and everything got really business oriented. But when you look at the draw, all those bands that we just mentioned have, I mean, like for every time people get exposed to them, it sticks.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of staying power, and I think the songs are really fresh, even though you're talking about guys that have been around for a while, and a style that's not new anymore.
Right.
But there's so much left to do.
Yeah.
Is my feeling on it.
Yeah.
And bands like that just prove that because they're all knocking it out of the park with everything they do.
Yeah, and I think some of that comes back to, you put three legends in a recording studio with any amount of time. They know how to get the sounds down. They know how to get the sounds down. They know how to write. They know how to, at this point in their career, work together as a cohesive unit. And that's that's when you start creating magic. And those are just some bands. Everybody go out there and check them out, because that's the real deal stuff. When you guys are recording, as a guitar player, I got to ask you about your rig. Are you using tube amps? Are you using modelers? What are you using to get your tones?
I am a recent orange convertee.
Oh, nice.
I've been using tube amps for I don't know, probably the last 20 years or so, maybe even longer. I started out, my background is hardcore, like East Coast hardcore, underground metal. As a kid, that's what I started playing. So I had a really amazing solid state amp back in the day.
Yeah.
Ampeg VH140C. It was just, you'd scoop the mids on it, and it was the sound, But the quest for tone started back in those days, and I got to the point where I started being a solid state and a tube, so I would run. I liked the clean that I could get out of a tube amp,
right?
But they just weren't caught up on the gain side yet, to do metal,
right?
And eventually I worked my way into I started messing around with I've had them all, Randall's, a couple of Marshalls over the years, Hughes and Kettner, stuff like that. Yeah. But a couple of years ago, or about a year ago, I got turned on to the Orange Rocker Verb 100.
Yep.
And actually the EP I used a Friedman BE 100.
Wow.
Because I've always been a Plexi fan.
Yeah.
And I like those tendencies out of that head. But this Rocker Verb 100, man, is just, that's where it's at.
Yeah,
and I'm simple.
Yeah, it sounds straight in. Not a lot of reverb, not a lot of definitely no delay on your rhythm stuff.
Yeah, no. I like the way a guitar sounds good to me. Like a good guitar through a good head and a good set of speakers is all I'm really doing.
Yeah.
I'll run a clean boost,
yeah,
to get just a little more of what's there. The reverb's just on. It's just on.
Yeah.
and and every now and then a little bit of wah. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I heard that half-cocked wah on the solo on that last track. I was like, there she is. One of the products that I was truly impressed with, these days I've got tinnitus or tinnitus, whatever you want to call it. Too many years of cymbals and 100-watt heads and all that kind of stuff. One of the products I was really impressed with, because of the tone that you would get at a reasonable volume, the orange dark terror, the little lunchbox thing. Yep. It's like you plug that into a 412 cabinet and you're like, wow. But it's not wow blowing you across the room and the front row of the crowd is putting their fingers in their ear. Some of the products that they're coming out with, the lower wattage, solid states, even, they really sound good, man. And it's impressive. I've been using a Kemper now for probably about 6 or 7 years. And, something like that you're going to go in a rabbit hole, and I'll see you in 3 weeks, and you can dial in whatever it is you're looking to dial in, and it'll be that way every time you plug it in, which is kind of why I use it, with all 3 of my bands. Whatever band I'm in, I plug in and I go to my pedal, my performance package there, and it's like I've got everything I need, but gear, the chasing of tone that, like you talked about a minute ago, it only took me 35, 40 years of playing guitar to like finally be like, okay, I'm done. Towel. I'm throwing it in. This is my sound. I'm done. Until you go in the studio and you need a something different, which is again nice on the Kemper because, okay, if I need any clean amp with amazing reverbs, it's all in there. It's actually it's kind of baffling. It kind of blows my mind that all of that can be done with one piece of equipment. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't push the air from behind like our 100-watt heads used to. But when you're playing live, are you using in-ears or are you still blasting monitors?
It's monitors are always the trick.
Yeah.
Playing live, like they're either awesome or they're complete shit, and there's no way around it. So I've always been able to, I know where the sweet spot in front of my rig is.
Yeah.
And, everything from, a bar room stage to like a theater size stage.
Yeah.
I can hear, like I'll run a full stack for a theater venue, just because the stage is so deep. And I've got more room to get into that headroom, and I can hear good with that. But Jerry, our drummer, is our modern techie guy.
Yeah. And
he's got me, I'm thinking about a fractal unit and in-ears, because we're looking at doing a lot more traveling in the coming year. And lugging around these, 100-pound heads and, 80-pound cabinets and all that stuff is getting old.
Yeah. And
I, now that I know it's possible to get my same tone no matter what every night.
Yeah.
And that it's also possible for me to dial in my exact monitor mix, like exactly what I want to hear, how I want to hear it
every time.
You can't help but to go that way,
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm a gear nerd in that, I like the mechanics of, valve heads, and 412 cabinets and all that stuff. And like you say, that feeling of the air being pushed, when those speakers are barking, that's part of it, and I love that feeling, especially when the band is tight. There's just nothing better than that experience. The
biggest part
I'm slowly but surely I'm catching up to the modern side of it.
once you do it and you have success with it, you'll be like, oh, okay, I can work with this. The biggest thing that I noticed, like when you're playing like rhythm, and you're kind of like chunk, you know, if you're doing a staccato with palm muted, kind of a chunk type of thing, I miss a little bit of that with the Kemper. I'm going to throw a couple of products out to you, that and anybody watching. As far as your in-ear monitors, I've had $900 pairs, and I've had $25 pairs of in-ears. There's a $60 pair called the KZ AS10 in-ear monitors. You get them on Amazon. They're $60. They're a 5-driver in-ear. I'm wearing them right now, and I bought 2 pair. I've got one I use, one for spare, and they sound as good as my $900 pair, with the exception that they're not custom molded. So,
Right.
you know, they seal up nicely. Unfortunately, what I find when I'm playing and we hit a sweet spot in a song or something, if I smile at the guys, I lose my seal and I have to reshove them in. So if you're ever watching me play live and I'm not smiling, that's why. I don't want to break the seal on my in-ears. And then the second piece of equipment, I have, like I said, I've got the powered Kemper. So I could be, it's like 300 watts. I could be running my 412.
Oh, wow.
I could be running my 412 with the powered Kemper, and have all the headroom all day long. The problem is once you hear the Kemper in stereo, I no longer just want one 412. So there's a pedal that's a power amp. It's 45 watts a side. It's literally the size of a tube screamer, standard foot pedal, and it's 45 watts a side. So I come out of my Kemper head or your Fractal, whatever you end up going with, and I run 2 412s, these 2 that are right here, in stereo off of the other outputs on the back of the Kemper. So I don't even use the powered side. I use that pedal. I forgot to tell you what it is. It's the Thunder 99 from Harley Benton. You get them from Thomann Music out of Germany, $89, and it's been bulletproof. It's not. You can dime it, and I played on an outdoor stage. Outdoors where you lose all your horsepower, and I had it dimed that day. But for every other venue I've ever used, it's never been louder than 12 o'clock. Plenty of power to run 2 412 cabinets. So I run 8 12s in stereo off the Kemper with that pedal, and it's unreal.
Nice.
So
yeah, that's definitely worth looking into. Definitely.
Yeah, and like you said, with your monitor mix, with your, this is my in-ear rack that we use. We dial in our in-ear mix in the room. We hit save, and we go to a venue. We set up. I call up that scene. It's the same mix we had in rehearsal. It's a fine-tuning adjustment, but I'd feel comfortable walking on a stage going, okay, I can make an adjustment as we go here. Let's go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So technology is not your enemy.
No.
You just got to figure out what it is that works for you, and then budget for it, because anything cool is over $1,000 in this game.
That's the one thing that's never going to change. That's always the other side of the sword, or the other edge, so to speak.
Yeah, it's double-edged. Yeah.
Hey man, I hate to do this, but my wife is ringing the dinner bell. I gotta wind down.
Gotcha. Can we play?
Wind it down. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Let's play Truth Be Told, and then we'll call the ball there.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right, here we go. Truth Be Told, Cranberry Suit. right, I take that back. I like your tone. I like your tone, and your rhythm guitar stuff is really sounding really good there. One question before you go in the outro of that solo. What in the heck was that? There's like a what was that? Kill switch?
That was it was it's a little bit of studio magic, a little bit of kill switch, and a delay that was accidentally I don't know how it got stepped on the way it did and switched to the setting it was on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an edited accident that just worked out kind of cool, so we kept it.
I love that. Happy accidents are where music is happy.
That's the magic.
I really like it. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Raven, and keep us posted to what you guys have coming up, and definitely let us know when the album drops. And
Will do.
And as I was sitting there listening to that, I'm going, why have I not made a original music podcast playlist on Spotify? Because this stuff needs to be heard. I think that's one of my things I got to do for the show here is there's been so much good music that it needs to be heard. So I'm going to work on that, and you work on dinner, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. And you keep up with us, cranberrysuit.com. We're everywhere. And hopefully we'll get to talk again when the album comes out.
Absolutely. Love to have you and some of the other guys on.
Right on, man. Thank you very much.
All right. Peace out. See you.
Good night.
You're watching the Original Music Podcast.